let's get started. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Bob.
All right, let's again, Father, we thank you for this day you've given us, for the safety of our travels, for our health, Father. We pray for those who have been ill, just to give them guardian angels to help them heal. Be with those that may be en route. Be with the squadron as it continues with its mission and its members, Father. Give them strength, and in your name we pray.
Amen. All right, welcome everybody. Good day today. The heat is cranking up. Last weekend in Imperial it was as high as 118 degrees during the day. Very hot. So stay hydrated, everyone, and watch your fluids. Make sure that you stay safe and healthy. Today is our emergency services night. So I've been to Florida and I had experience to fly Florida wing aircraft, so I'll be sharing the experience how actually to get to the aircraft if you have no idea where to find one. But before we start there, I'd like our guests to introduce themselves and say a few words, who you are, what you do for aviation, what makes you interested in CEP, and maybe something else you'd like to add. So please, go ahead.
I'm Paul Connor. In aviation, I'm a student pilot and interested in serving with pilots.
Thank you, Paul.
My name is Micah Connor. I'm also a student pilot, and looking for a place to serve. Saw that you could do that while also being a pilot. Thought that was cool.
Okay, great.
Got that.
Welcome.
Where do you go to school?
And certainly.
I'm out
Oh,
of
hello.
Oh, for Gino Aviation. Gino? Yeah.
SoCal Aviation.
Hello, Harper. Alec, please sign in. And you right on time. You'll say a few words about yourself at the end. Last. You can do it. You can sign in later. So just start with a quick introduction about yourself and your flying experience.
Okay. Well, I'm a private pilot. Like my training was like for 3 years. It took me a little bit longer than usually, but I used to work and fly. And at the end of 2020, I got my license, but like I couldn't proceed as I had cancer, so I had to go through treatment, and now I'm coming back to get my everything back, So that's pretty much it.
Welcome. Today is your first visit, and we look forward to work with you and help you through your goals in aviation.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, as usually, I'll give an update on aircraft currently in maintenance. So both Group 3 aircraft are still in the maintenance. I'll start sharing the screen. So we have Carlos online and he can see what we are talking about. So one of my hats in CEP is Assistant Maintenance Officer for California Wing, and in that role I'm overseeing the maintenance of all aircraft for Southern California serviced at Maintenance 1 here at Riverside. So I spoke about it in the previous meeting briefly, but I finished my actual form. I need to get to it. How do I remove that thing? Oh boy. So what I created the maintenance request form for the maintenance officers to use. And that form is required for me to actually talk to Maintenance 1 about incoming aircraft. And so far people have been following the process. And to make it easier for everyone, I actually describe the whole process, how it's supposed to be, both from scheduling, dropping off the aircraft, and so on and so forth. And since we cut off communication line for maintenance officers to maintenance facility to keep maintenance focused on actual work, I am responsible for getting regular updates on all the aircraft currently in maintenance. So I created this page, and one section of the page is the status of the current aircraft. And I also posted the link to this page on our Teams channel. So if you sign into Teams, you can have an app or you can have a desktop version. You have a wealth of information there, and it's continuously being improved. But this one I posted on General tab. Basically, there is a link to aircraft maintenance procedures, which will take you to exactly this page. So right now we have 5 aircraft in the shop in different phases of maintenance. I'll focus on our aircraft of Group 3, which are November 216 Charlie Papa and November 887 Charlie Papa. 216 Charlie Papa is Turbo 206, which was assigned to us in May, and 887 Charlie Papa is 182. Both of them are G1000 aircraft. So, see, unfortunately, the ETA for both aircraft is to be defined, and the reason for that, on Turbo 206, the cylinders were shipped to overhaul shop for the overhaul. They came back, and looks like that shop fitted the cylinders with the original pistons, which were all messed up by previous cylinders due to them making metal. So our maintenance shop doesn't feel comfortable putting the cylinders back in that condition. They seek guidance from National on what to do, and looks like National doesn't mind having scratched and potentially damaged cylinders back on airplane, which the possibility of them going bad, I think, is unknown. Taking chances, so we are trying to figure that out. That makes it kind of interesting from timeline point of view, because we literally have no idea when 216 Charlie Papa will be flying again.
But the cylinders and the piston has a lot to do, because each cylinder is tapered about 3 to 4 thousandths.
Yeah.
And so they're sloppy at the bottom and tight on top. But if they're worn, they're going to just start pumping oil.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, you start using more and more aluminum in the oil. That seems ridiculous. So anytime you've had a cylinder that's been refurbished and they've honed it out, it's got to have a piston that's going to fit it, not using an old one. Yeah. Because they're going to take 4 thousandths off of that. So then you add another 4, that's 8 thousandths clearance. It's sloppy.
Yeah, it is sloppy, and hopefully the guidance will be proper to refit the cylinders with the new pistons. So we'll see how that goes. I will keep you posted. I update this page at least on twice a week basis. You are welcome to look at it, and by the way, I'm looking for feedback. If anything you would like to see on that page, I will do my best to put it there.
Here's the key. So that mechanic, it's in his hands right now, not National. If he decides to put that cylinder on with the used one, he becomes liable for that by FAA rules, because he inspected it at the tail end and installed a part that should have been replaced. When he goes back and asks National for what they believe, what are the measurements of the cylinder, and what are the measurements of the piston? If he feels uncomfortable, he says, I'm not going to install it. That's the end of it. They have to buy new pistons.
Yeah. And that's the reason he's hesitant to install the cylinders as
He
is.
doesn't have to install. That airplane can sit there for 2 years.
Yeah. On 87, situation is better. The MAX came back from overhaul. They were installed on aircraft. Right now the issue is we are stuck on guidance from National where to send the fuel divider and the fuel server for overhaul due to the leakage we are getting from one of the drain lines on the bottom of the engine. And the last word as of today, it will be up to maintenance one where to overhaul these parts, and hopefully it will make us unstuck. So we wasted like 2 weeks just waiting for National to decide what to do. Other aircraft from the area, you can review the status there. The good news is 94800, which is CAP 401, will be complete this Thursday and will be flown for Imperial mission by me and Chris. 499 Charlie Papa was here for quick 100-hour inspection, and it will be ready by end of the week. 451 is not so lucky. The metal was found in the oil filter during 100-hour inspection. The oil analysis showed the elevated levels of different metals, iron and nickel specifically. And Lycoming wanted the analysis on actual metal done by the lab. The analysis was delayed by 2 weeks due to the person responsible going on vacation. Finally came back yesterday, and the news are not good. It's mostly nickel, so which means the engine probably would have to go through more in-depth analysis. So that's on maintenance. The 743 Charlie Papa out of Fullerton is flying very hard, trying to make up time for all the missing aircraft in the area. So it's been a month and a half since it went through 100-hour inspection, and will be back for 100-hour next week. So the aircrafts are being used very, very heavily. Any questions on maintenance? Okay. For Hamid Squadron benefit, that's one of the reasons we are having issues making ORIDEs. And 743 Charlie Papa out of Fullerton was doing ORIDEs for all the squadrons in the whole SoCal. And Zelda is flying the San Diego area squadron, so pretty much only 2 aircraft have been flying lately in our area, close by to us. Other updates from organizational point of view, we have SUI coming up end of August. I just received all the instructions today, so I'll reach out to the officers responsible for different duties for specific information. Most importantly, it would be administrative area and airspace education. So I'll give you instructions, Chris, what I expect on airspace education side as far as our past history of what has been accomplished and our ongoing program, as well as what we plan to do in the future. I do not expect SUI to be difficult this time. That will be my second one I'm going through, so we have cleaned a lot of issues last time. Hopefully we'll come out without any discrepancies this time. What else? There is SAREX coming up here at it's a joint Group 3 and Group 7 SAREX at Riverside here at our headquarters. Will be July 13th and 14th. I highly recommend those pursuing search and rescue qualifications. Please be ready for that. Get your prerequisites done as soon as possible. Don't delay too much. You have all the skills evaluators and trainers you need at the squadron level. Just don't hesitate to ask for guidance and help. Myself, Terry, Mike, and so forth, we will make ourselves available to help you get through initial steps. Yes?
When it says where, it says here, but then it also says remote launch from KSEE. I don't understand what that means. And K4?
Oh, that means that some of the crews are coming from Gillespie Field and Fullerton.
Oh.
So there will be aircraft from Fullerton, there will be aircraft from Gillespie Field probably, and that's a top of IC to arrange all the resources and make sure that we have productive event. Just a heads up, I did receive some of the comments that they couldn't get into the form to sign up. Keep in mind at the CEP we have two logins we use. One is e-services, which is just username and password, and the other one is Office 365 Microsoft account. That account you use for Teams, for email in Outlook, and you can actually use the whole Office 365 suite for free. That's one of the benefits being a member of CEP. So you need to use your Office 365 username and password to actually get into the form. Sometimes forms are being distributed for anyone can access it. Like our Nighthawk, for example, I do not restrict it for people with username and password because it doesn't contain any sensitive information. But Saraxes and other kind of wing-wide events, they are restricted for members only. So you do need to remember your email and the password associated with that to access that information or resource. Same goes for, by the way, the aircraft maintenance. It's for those who has anything to do with aviation within the wing. So if you are a regular member and they are not flying, you're not part of air crew, maybe you will not have access to it, which also is interesting for me to know. Just everybody please try that link I showed and share with me your experience. If the page is structured and comes up well on your devices and your preferred browser, if any information is maybe not clearly seen, etc. Like one of the members reported that the bullet points, numbered bullet points, are not in order. I see everything is perfectly fine, so something is wrong, but I have no way to find out. So feedback is highly appreciated. Yes.
About that, because it's a Google form, I'm pretty sure in the settings there's a button that says if you want to randomize the questions for
Oh,
people.
that's not the form. That's basically a static page on SharePoint. And see, like these numbers, they are all in perfect order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. But one of the members sees like break in the numbering and like 23 after 3, etc. So it's strange, and that's Microsoft not being very friendly, I guess. Any questions? Chuck, you'd like to make an announcement?
Just a couple of quick announcements. We've got a communications exercise coming up. Everybody should have gotten an email. It is referred to as Pacific Thunder 24-2. If you don't have the email, get in touch with me and we'll make sure you get a copy of it. Starts on Friday, June 28th, and it'll be through Sunday, June 30th. One other thing that I wanted to make people aware of, because I know sometimes coming in here to use these radios isn't convenient. If you have your iCut and you have your basic GES, you can reach out to Major Gadd, that's G-A-D-D, and he will get you a login to ReadyOp. If anybody is not familiar with ReadyOp, get with me, and I'll give you a quick demonstration what ReadyOp is. What it is, just in a nutshell, it allows you to use either a PC or your phone to digitally communicate with the repeaters so that you can be involved in it even if you don't have a radio or access to it. So again, all you need is iCut and your initial GES and you can get involved. We want as many people involved. I do plan to come in here and utilize the HF radio that's here at the Squadron, so if you're interested in that, stay in touch with me and we'll work out a schedule.
Good. Thank you, Chuck.
Any questions? Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, quick information. What is iCut? That's Introduction to Communications in CEP organization, the protocol, the radios we use, and so on and so forth. That is essential, definitely it's a requirement for aircrew. But I highly recommend to anyone who is involved at our squadron level to get through the training and see if you get aspirations to work in the communications area. And Chuck is a wealth of information for that specialty, so please don't hesitate to ask questions. Okay. Now, for the benefit of members, I'll give a very short overview of what are the benefits of joining CEP. Specifically to you, Alec. Basically, if you are a pilot, you get to fly our aircraft. Initially, while you are low time, you can rent our aircraft for proficiency flying, for getting instructions from CEP instructors, or getting a check ride with FAA DPE. You can rent it at very affordable cost. If my memory serves me right, so something like $87 drive for Cessna 182, a little bit more expensive for 206, and much less expensive for 172. CEP members, the wing level have no restrictions on accessing any aircraft anywhere in California wing. You would need to, of course, learn how to find the aircraft and how to schedule it. And I will touch a little bit on my experience, how I managed to find and schedule aircraft in Florida, for example, when I was traveling there. But at the squadron level, you have all the support to get through onboarding process, to learn how to find the pilot check, how to find an instructor pilot, how to find the check pilot, how to schedule aircraft, etc. And it's really up to you and your availability and schedule how quickly you can get through onboarding. There are some requirements imposed by organization in terms of getting basic steps, familiarization with organization, and entry-level training on our ethics, culture, and so forth, which is prerequisite to any member joining us. But then once you pass, we call it level 1, you can immediately initiate the pilot onboarding. We do have challenges with aircraft availability locally right now, as I just mentioned, but there are aircraft reasonably close. One returning in service is based at John Wayne. There is aircraft at Fullerton. There is aircraft at Whiteman, Torrance, Van Nuys, Santa Monica, Gillespie Field. So plenty of options. It's really up to a member how far you want to drive or fly to get through the process. A few updates on new pilots going through onboarding. I think it's beneficial for you, Luke. I'm working with Carlos and another CFI who joined us to get through their onboarding. That's my probably highest priority right now. So then we are less dependent on external resources in other group level. So I was hoping to get it done end of June, but aircraft availability was in the way, and I asked for the resources I work with to find time in July. Both check pilot and instructor pilot are currently flying for airlines, so they know their schedule last week of month for the next month, and I will know better probably after July 4th. So I'll give updates on an ongoing basis about that. So Jason, Luke, I'll keep you posted, and those other pilots interested to get through the process. Chris, I highly recommend you to get through the process. I know. And what we are planning is actually to have like a weekend event. Saturday it would be instructor pilot available to give the introduction flight and assess the readiness of the pilot going through onboarding. And the Sunday will be actual check ride. So we will see how that plays out. Another reminder, basically, when you going through onboarding, first flight with the CAP instructor, you have to do at your own cost. So you are paying for the dry rate of aircraft rental, and you are paying for the gas you use. minimum probably recommended time is 1 hour of flight time. After that, instructor would recommend you for onboarding program, and you get 5 flights funded by U.S. Air Force to finish your onboarding practices before you go into check ride. And then check ride is also funded, so it's up to 2 hours on hubs, and the only challenge is to find airplane and the check pilot at the same airport with you. So, and we will help you through all of that. So we will not talk in detail about specific levels of pilot onboarding. It's quite well described on our website. Feel free to reach out to me if you need help finding the information. And usually we allocate time in one of the regular meetings to go and repeatedly explain the process. Okay, any questions? Good. One to every member, please check your copy mails for opportunities in training, ground team, administrative, working with cadets. Even though we are senior squadrons, you are encouraged to engage with neighbor squadrons and help them with cadet programs, etc. There are opportunities to engage in airspace education programs and so on and so forth. So be connected to the community. It's a joke that CAP is the best kept secret in aviation, and unfortunately it's true. And my next topic speaks exactly about that. So let's move to that part. So we know theoretically that pilot, once you go through onboarding with CAP, can technically fly any CAP aircraft anywhere in the states, and some states with maybe unique airspace characteristics or maybe terrain or other features like Hawaii, for example, require additional training and additional check ride. But I was hoping that state like Florida would be super easy to do, and I didn't really think hard how would I go about finding the airplane. And just about a week before my travel, I thought, let's see if I can actually find the airplane close to the place where I'm going. Where do I start? Okay. So, first of all, as you look at e-services, it's a primary resource for CAP. There is really not a clear place where to find the airplane, the whole inventory of airplanes. Okay, I scratch my head. What do I do about it? How do I find it? Well, I thought of AMRAD, which is basically maintenance subsystem. Like, okay, all airplanes certainly listed there. No, sure it is. So how do I find one in the area where I will be located? So I went to search for aircraft status initially. And it's pretty significant. A lot of information here. So okay, there is an option to filter by the wing. So I scrolled for the Florida wing. Let's find that. And the logic is, I'm not quite sure. It's like southeast region, right? Yeah, southeast region and Florida 01. Good, I found that. I deciphered that part of information because I've been in CAP long enough to figure that out. Then I said, okay, I don't need aircraft which is a current, has a lot of, well, I don't want grounded aircraft for sure, so I will just search for aircraft which have open discrepancies, and I'll see what kind of discrepancies they have, because my goal was to fly instrument proficiency there. So I click filter report. At that point, I'm like, okay, so a bunch of aircraft are grounded, so maybe I should have just kept deferred and serviceable. And click filter again, so I remove grounded aircraft from the list. That gives me a shorter list. So my next option is, okay, so the list is not that long. Now I need to filter those aircraft I can actually fly. I'm not checked out in 172 with CAP, so I am limited to 206 and So next thing I've done, and this whole thing, I clicked on model, and obviously I'm not interested in any of the 172, and they have a bunch of them. So highly recommend get checked out in 172. It gives you a lot more options when you're looking for aircraft. Now I look at 182. They have only 3 aircraft in the whole Florida wing, and they have 2 206 aircraft. That's a short list. So now I need to see where the aircraft is based. Well, I'm not familiar with Florida airspace. I have no idea these airport codes. Now I get my ForeFlight out, and I look where I'm based. I'm going to be based, and now I'm like, okay, which airplane is close enough? Well, right now they moved the aircraft I was flying, and that was, which one was that? Okay, I don't even see it anymore. Maybe it's grounded. That's probably what the case is. So that I found aircraft about 2.5 miles, I mean 1.5 hour driving distance from where I was staying. I was staying in Jacksonville area, and the airport is Fernandina Beach. Beautiful area, right by the shore, by the whatever the waterways they call it, inland waterways or whatever. So it looks like a cool airport with a lot of options, uncontrolled airspace, and then I started to look how to actually, then it occurred to me like, okay, I know aircraft is there. Now how do I get to it? I scheduled it, so it was November 956, I believe. So I now want what I was looking for, and I can reserve the aircraft. So actually, if I look at grounded aircraft, 995 Charlie Papa, 816 Charlie Papa, etc., 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 etc. And I totally don't see it. Anyway, so I figured out the tail number. Then I went to Wimmers. Wimmers is now a mission control place. Mission Information Resource System, something like that. And I went to scheduling module. Then I added to my favorite list of aircraft the aircraft I was looking for. So, sorry, clicked the wrong button. So I clicked on my preferences. These are all the aircraft I'm interested to fly at California wing point side, and I added 956 Charlie Papa. So that's the aircraft I found in Fernandina Beach, and I returned to calendar and I scheduled it. So now what? Okay, I reserved the aircraft. I know nobody gonna fly it. How do I get to the aircraft? And that gave me a little bit of a puzzle because I don't know anybody there. Who do I talk to? So I asked Mike Swift. He had no idea. He never flown aircraft outside of California. I reached out to California, what is his position? Standardization and Evaluation Officer, Georgios. And he's like, oh, you probably have to reach out to the wing DO and figure out if they have any special limitations. Okay, so I go to Florida Wing website. First of all, it's very hard to find, you know, on our websites are not the most friendliest websites out there. They are functional, but far from being perfect. So I look at members, I look at, let's say, members desk, open positions, not interested. How do I talk to the right person? How do I find the actual personnel? National headquarters, etc., etc., etc. It's not obvious, right? So click on contact us. What do we have here? Well, it's just a web form. There is a phone number I can call, but there should be like a person list about us. Oh, there you go, wing stuff. So I click that. Then there is a whole bunch of people, different positions. There is a wing commander, there is a mail address, etc., etc. So I'm looking for the wing DO, deputy chief, etc., etc. Where is the wing DO? So eventually I found it. See, it's not easy to repeat it. Chief of staff, group 1, group 3, the group commanders, operations. Okay, Donald Windle, that's not the person I spoke to. Strategy, information, communication, now useful. Directorates. Administration, historian, operations. Okay, let's go to operations. Aircraft maintenance, etc., etc. William Rake, Don Whittle. So I started emailing all these people, basically. So I just got their email address, and since they are different wing, they are not in our active directory. So in our, if you are part of email system, you start typing person name, it gives you a suggestion of their email address. You have no access to anybody outside of the wing by default in our system, because they run their own version of emails, etc., etc. So okay, fine. I found some people who can I talk to, and I just send them an email and hoping they will answer. The good news, they did respond pretty quickly, actually, the same day. And they gave me contact information of the group commander. They gave me contact information for the squadron commander, for that specific squadron in Fernandina Beach, which is also senior squadron, very small. They have like barely 20 members. And now the squadron commander is telling me, oh, well, there is a special requirement by the Florida wing to get a familiarization flight before you can actually fly by yourself. I was like, bummer. Do you have like a local check pilot or instructor pilot I can talk to? He's like, okay, so this one is on vacation, this one is sick, or this one maybe is available, who is close enough to your area. Like, okay, I email him. And eventually we agreed that it's probably, I don't have time to get through the formal onboarding process. I will have to get, apparently on the Florida Wing website, there is a postage, there is a post available saying that, oh, you have to get through familiarization flight with airspace, and you have to get a check ride. So I reached out to their evaluation and standardization officer, and I discussed my prior experiences that I fly in SoCal airspace, which is very complex. We have class Bravo, class Charlie, one on top of another. We have controlled airports, uncontrolled airports. We have mountains. We have this, that, etc. I sent him my experience report, showed him my report on California flying real missions, etc., etc. So after the discussion, he's like, okay, fine. But I have to give you a briefing on specifics of airspace. Hello, Dallas. Specifics on airspace around Jacksonville area. So let me show you briefly what it looks like. And at first glance, it wasn't that bad, but the briefing was useful. And you'll see why. Pilots certainly will see why. I'll try not to make it too boring for those who are not pilots. So let me turn VFR sectional. And I'll go to Fernandina Beach. Okay. So this is the airspace. I'll zoom in a little bit. Okay, this is the airport. This is Jacksonville. So there is a Jacksonville approach. Some interesting things. There is a prohibited airspace. There is another restricted airspace. There are a couple. There is a TFR, and TFR is active, and it's kind of permanent. But I learned that you actually fly through that as long as you talk to the approach. I asked, okay, I'd like maybe to get a safety pilot that makes things easier, who is familiar with airspace, who is actually available. And I got lucky. They gave me a pilot from this nice senior squadron over here, Fernandina Senior Squadron of Florida Wing. He is not instrument rated, but that's good enough to be a safety pilot as long as he's flying the same kind of aircraft. He further explained to me specifics of different airports in the area. This is Navy. This is also, this one is Navy. That's the reason there is a TFR over it. This airport is, I think it's what? Jacksonville Executive. That's civilian airport. But you see half of it is kind of covered by TFR. So we planned 3 approaches. We planned one to Cecil Field, one to Craig Airport, and final back to Fernandina Beach. Then once you kind of map everything out, it becomes more or less easy. Jacksonville approach was great. Had very pleasant proficiency flight. 3 approaches, beautiful approach to Fernandina Beach over the ocean. Kind of nerve-wracking because the altitude wasn't within the gliding distance. But the weather was calm. Then you learn about specifics of the weather. In Florida, it's quite different comparing to here. It's already hot and humid. And the better weather is usually in the morning. In the afternoon, the thunderstorm starts popping up and it starts looking questionable. And you don't even an instrument flight plan and a small airplane in a thunderstorm cloud is not going to be fun. So, long story short, everything worked out. Okay, so it takes time. So if you once you become a pilot and you get through onboarding, if you're interested in flying in another state, just do a little bit research ahead of time. Give yourself ample time to coordinate everything. Of course, you may run into a situation the aircraft may go to maintenance or taken from the target airfield to another place for rides and so on and so forth. So plan ahead. Talk to people. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Like in CP, that's a vital quality. If you feel like you're stuck, don't stay stuck. Ask questions to those who has been around for a while, and it will enable you to make very interesting things. So, yeah, it's a G1000 2015 aircraft, not an XI, just a regular G1000, pretty much like 887. You can see by tail number it's close enough, actually about the same age, but extremely low time. On 887 we have like, I think over 5,000 total time. Guess what his total time was on that aircraft? Just wild guess. 1500, 1600. They don't fly that much. So we occasionally actually get aircraft here from neighbor states because those aircraft were not flown enough. Like There was aircraft from Arizona, which actually 216 Charlie Papa was relocated from Arizona because they didn't fly it much. We had another aircraft from Nevada, and so on and so forth. So very different weather, which may be a factor. A number of pilots may be a factor. Follow time. The actual missions is another factor. They don't have much. They don't have. I spoke to the pilots. I asked, what kind of missions do you fly? Besides proficiency flight, they fly cadet rides. That's a highest flown mission. And they don't have a lot of interaction with the Air Force. They don't have things like WADS mission. They do have something similar to our counter drug. So that's probably.
Just curious, is AMRAD only a command staff? Because I cannot seem to find it on e-services.
Unless you're a pilot, you will not have that access. Yeah. So once Chris gets through onboarding as a pilot, he'll be able to access MRAD. And that's another tricky thing. It's hard to know what resources getting available at what time. So ask questions. If you cannot access certain information, let me know. It could be role-based, it could be position-based. If you become a maintenance officer, it opens up certain levels of information. I'm probably being a health officer opens something else which other people don't see. One thing which would be useful at the national level is kind of a aircraft directory maybe with airport information. And another assumption, very interesting topic by the way. Okay, so I know aircraft is based there and I know I can fly it, there are no restrictions for me. How do I get to the hangar? Okay, if it's on the field, not hangar, probably going to be easy. You spot it, CP aircraft all the same. But this aircraft was in the hangar and there was nowhere any information which hangar it is, how to find it. How to unlock it. So we have certain agreement at California wing how the locks are coded. The coding in Florida is different. Nothing to do with our approach. So if Floridians come here, they will not be able to find the aircraft, or if they find it, they will not be able to fly it because the lock combination is not the same. I will not disclose the combination because if we only had CP members, I would not hesitate to do that, but the whole logic is different. Okay, so and no information about that published anywhere. And interesting discussion with this pilot was, with my safety pilot, was that they had recently interstate exercise for emergency response with Georgia, South Carolina and North Carolina pilots and Louisiana pilots. And they run into exactly the same problem. Because the pilots from other states were dispatched to certain airports and they're like, what do I do now? Where is the aircraft? How do I get into it? It's amazing.
How do they operate?
Same problem in California. We operate in our silos. There is no inter-state exercises happening. I have not seen any exercises happening of that nature. I see some pilots from Washington or from Oregon flying in here, but they know it because they used to live here.
Occasionally we've had it with Arizona and Nevada in the past, but those are adjacent states.
Oh, one information actually I want to share from experience point of view. Okay, I actually managed to find some information for people by peeling that onion. What the heck happened? I think my browser froze. I'll try to stop sharing. So it was interesting. Actually, I didn't reach out to the wing level first. I actually managed to find who is the maintenance officer for the aircraft, and that is the same person. Sorry about that. Looks like it did freeze. I have to kill it. So I went to MRAD. In MRAD, once you get information about the aircraft, and I'm not sure if pilots have that access, because I am maintenance officer and I have a little bit broader view at the information. But I managed to find who is the maintenance officer is. But there was no contact information, just the name. How do I find the contact information? And I started digging in my memory, and then I realized that if I look at air crew level and I assign a person to the air crew, I get to see their contact information and their emergency contact information with the phone number and everything. And it's like, oh, bingo. So first person I reached out was actually maintenance officer for the aircraft by phone call and a message, and he was very helpful peeling that onion. Okay, so the matter of this whole story is that try to figure out as much information as you can, and learn to dig into details if necessary. Don't, and again, I repeat myself all the time, every meeting I repeat it, don't hesitate to ask a question. That gives you a lot more options within the organization. So some of the benefits of this organization are people, and you learn from the people by participating in discussions, conversations, sharing your experiences, hearing their experiences, etc. So that was my topic for today. Any questions?
When did you feel like giving up?
When they told me I have to get a check ride. And I was like, I don't have time for that. So yeah, then I said, it was already, I arrived on Sunday night to Jacksonville, and I was hoping to fly on Tuesday. But by Tuesday, I only managed to get in touch with certain people who may help me to get to fly. And then I shifted everything to Wednesday, and it worked out. Again, the people there were very nice. I'm very happy about that. One thing though, they were very open in communication, but at the end I sent everyone like thank you email, no response. Go figure. Oh, my browser crashed for good. Anyway, I'll be happy once pilots get through onboarding and you want to fly in another state. If you need my help getting you through those barriers, I'll be more than happy to work with you. Okay, it's possible. Yes.
I just wanted to say real quick, like on a different topic. Did you all hear about what happened in Chino on Saturday?
Yes. Very sad event. I actually knew both pilots personally. It's public knowledge by now. I'm no longer required to keep it secret, but one was Frank Wright, who is the chief mechanic at Young's Museum, and the other one was Mike, I forgot his last name. He was a primary instructor. He was flying the aircraft at Young's. And what it looks like, and I'm not going to speculate, but there are two options for what happened. That they have flown, it's Lockheed Electra, and the characteristic of aircraft, it will not fly with flaps down. You cannot take off and climb with flaps down. And there is evidence of bystanders taking pictures that they took off with flaps down, and they couldn't raise the flaps, and basically they stalled and span. So just on departure end of runway 26 right, they crashed. So from the cabin of that aircraft you will not see the flaps. So either they forgot to raise the flaps after pre-flight, or there was some kind of mechanical issue which caused the flaps to drop. So there are two options to this thing. It was a busy day for both of them. They were part of a briefing at the museum. It was a Father's Day event organized by Youngs, and as a part of the event, both pilots, Frank and Mike, they were supposed to fly multiple aircraft, and it was the first aircraft they have flown. So,
yeah, to me it looked like engine out. So it started a left turn, according to the paper yesterday. It started a left turn, heavy bank, ended up nose down into a spin. That's typical of left engine out, right engine with power. To start making the roll to the left. So that's what my assumption was in regards to that loss of power, but you won't know until they pull the engine apart to see what's happening. The disadvantage with electronic gauges today, it doesn't freeze the instrument, so you have no idea what they were doing.
yeah.
If they had electronic gauges. If they got needle gauges, the impact freezes the needle where it was.
Yeah, the engines operated normally. That was so far the working issue is the flaps. Yeah, they took off with flaps down and they couldn't retract them quick enough. So that's the issue. A very unfortunate event for Youngs and for aviation community overall.
Should they take off the Chino?
Yeah.
They got a long runway.
It was 26
should've
right.
known-
It wasn't the longest runway, but
They should have known, because flaps are going to get you get off a little bit early, but then it incorporates drag. That's why you got to level off and increase your speed.
yeah. Let me actually. I'll show you the video.
Those are your three killer items. Flaps, spoilers, and trim.
Yep. Now my computer today is totally uncooperative. I'll reboot. So, Carlos, I'll be right back. So there is a picture which is part of the evidence showing them taking off with full flaps. And by characteristics of that aircraft, it's not gonna fly with full flaps. And the other set event, which just happened yesterday in Georgia, similar aircraft crashed and caught fire with 3 people on board. If anyone follows Dan Grider, there are people who like them, there are people who don't. I personally like his videos. Some of them are maybe questionable, but he also was involved in that accident. Fortunately, all 3 people survived and in stable condition. So, sad events. Man, it's not working at all. It doesn't give me the option for force quit. Strange. No, there is always another way to force.
You know, there's some things that you got to think about. look at what took place with American Airlines Chicago Flight 196. They're within 4 knots of getting out of that stall when the engine came off. But we have a tendency, and we've been taught not to push the nose over. And if you're going to start into the stall and you want to increase your speed, you got to push the nose over, even though it's against all your training.
Both of the pilots were extremely experienced and familiar with aircraft, but it looks like one of the possibilities they got very distracted. They went in the museum. They were going through the briefing. They were talking with a lot of people. There are a lot of visitors in the area, and it was quite easy to forget to raise the flaps. They got preoccupied with getting things going. So that's a huge reminder to the pilots: don't skip any item on checklist ever. You never know how it's going to play out. I found the video. I'll show you that. Frank was extremely nice. Both of them were nice. I knew Frank a little bit more. And he was he met my stepson and wanted to give him a summer job at the shop, because my stepson is very fond of mechanical stuff, working on airplanes, and he's pretty good with welding. So I'll join from here. Okay, everybody dropped. Then I don't need to be here then. I'll just share my screen. I guess you found the video too.
Quick update on the loss of 93 Romeo, a 1938 Lockheed 12A Electric Junior aircraft lost on takeoff out of Chino, California yesterday, Saturday, June the 15th. It appears to be a stall spin accident on takeoff from an altitude of about 300 feet. Preliminary reports are indicating 1 or 2 fatalities. We believe that Frank Wright, the owner of the aircraft and the operator of the Yanks Air Museum, was involved in the crash. I'm very familiar with this aircraft. 93 Romeo is an aircraft that we flew back in the 90s at Grass Valley, California, when Bob Carmen owned that aircraft at the time. So I've got some details to share with you about that aircraft. The Lockheed Electric Junior, the 12A, was a smaller version of the Lockheed Electra 10. The Electra 10 model was the famous aircraft that Amelia Earhart flew in her attempt to fly around the world. The 12A became a popular aircraft for executives, especially in the oil industry at the time, in the 30s. Now, a couple things about that aircraft is that it has electric gear and electric flaps. And these, like many of the designs out of the 1930s, the cockpit ergonomics is a little cumbersome at best. For example, the flaps in the Lockheed Electra Junior is not a traditional flap handle like you would see in more modern aircraft. It is instead a plunger, which operates the flaps electrically. Same with the landing gear. It's simply a plunger. The aircraft is powered by two 985 Pratt & Whitney engines with the Hamilton standard constant speed, fully feathering propellers. A bit more about the flaps on the Lockheed Electra Junior. Like the 310, they are a split flap design. They are not a Fowler flap design, so these split flaps create more drag than lift, and you do not take off with any flaps. You take off with the flaps retracted or flaps up. The reason I'm bringing this up, and investigators are going to have to prove this or corroborate this, is there is a photo out there of the accident aircraft departing just before it crashed with the gear up and the flaps fully extended. The aircraft will not fly in this configuration. You would have to get the flaps retracted in order to continue the climb. And because they are electrically actuated flaps, they take quite a bit of time to extend and retract the flaps. Back in the 90s when we were flying it, when Bob Carmen owned it, Stu Carson, there's an old video in my archive somewhere where I interviewed Stu Carson about this event in this airplane. Years ago while flying this airplane, Stu Carson, pilot in command, a very experienced twin-engine, round-engine pilot. While on landing, base final to landing, he called for final landing flaps. They extended the flaps, and one of the flaps broke, giving him a split flap in condition with these flaps. Split flaps meaning one flap on one wing was down and the other flap on the other wing was up. Stu Carson very quickly reacted and called for the flaps to be retracted because this induced such a rolling motion into the aircraft that he was beginning to lose control of the aircraft. So Stu quickly called for flaps retracted. He got the flaps, the co-pilot at the time, which I believe was Bob Carmen, the owner, retracted the flaps, and Stu was able to save the airplane. Here's 93 Romeo in the Airplane Dossier website, the history of the aircraft. 93 Romeo, there's where it was owned in the 90s by Bob Carmen here in Rough and Ready or Grass Valley, California. That's when we were flying it. That's what the aircraft looked like shortly after he sold it, and in better days. And here's what the aircraft looks like after the crash. Now the reason I'm talking about the flaps so much is that investigators are going to need to corroborate this photograph here, see if this is a correct and true photograph. Just prior to the accident, we see the flaps in the fully extended position. The landing gear is up. On takeoff in this configuration, the aircraft will not remain airborne. Thank you so much for your support of this channel, especially the folks over on Patreon. See you here.
Yeah, so it was very beautiful aircraft. This picture I have taken just 2 weeks before. Yeah. So either the mechanical issue or they forgot to retract the flaps after pre-check, pre-flight check.
And what they did with the checklist. One checklist.
Well, a lot of experienced pilots fall into this trap. They think that memory items is the way to go. And sometimes memory, with us being distracted, fails us. And when it fails us in a critical point, it could be fatal. It's a beautiful aircraft. And Frank personally gave me an overview of it and how they worked on restoring it. It's very sad.
There was an accident with Cellular Patrol out of Las Vegas when the Turbo 182 first came in. The experience between both pilots, one was in 3 classes behind me with American Airlines. He was the wing commander for CAP Nevada, and another individual out of the military. Total time, both the experience was 54 years. And they flew into a mountain, killed them both, headed back to Edwards to drop the other one off. Believe in what radar was telling them. They're not checking to see where they were going.
Yeah.
And didn't clear the hill.
Well, that concludes the meeting. Stay safe, everybody.